Imagine this. It's the year 1250 AD. Somewhere in the vast South Pacific. Night has fallen. A double-hulled canoe slices through waves the size of houses. 60 feet of lashed timber carries 30 souls into the unknown. No compass, no maps, no metal tools. Just one man standing tall, eyes fixed on the stars, reading the ocean itself. Behind them, 1,400 miles of empty water. Ahead, nothing but horizon and fragile hope. They've been sailing for 3 weeks straight. One wrong move, and they sail off the edge of the world forever. No second chances. No rescue. This wasn't a reckless gamble. This was the most audacious migration in human history, and they did it again and again for over 3,000 years. This is the story of the Austronesian people. The master navigators who turned the largest ocean on Earth into their backyard. Picture their vessels, twin sleek hulls, carved from massive logs or built from planks, lashed together with coconut fiber rope. Between them sat a sturdy platform loaded with people, food, water, pigs, chickens, taro roots, and breadfruit seedlings. Above it all flew the legendary crabclaw sail, a triangular masterpiece woven from pandanus leaves, supported by 2 masts. It could be tilted and rotated to catch wind from almost any angle. These weren't simple dugout canoes. They were revolutionary double-hulled craft, 50 to 60 feet long, capable of carrying dozens of people and enough supplies for weeks at sea. The design gave them stability without a deep keel, while the narrow holes cut through water like knives. No nails, no metal, just rope, wooden pegs, and generational genius. A complete floating village ready to start life on a new shore. They didn't guess. They didn't hope. They used a system so sophisticated it still blows modern minds. Every night, 4 generations, navigators memorized entire star maps. They divided the horizon into segments, each linked to a specific star path. In the north, Hokopa Pilatus anchored direction and latitude. In the south, the Southern Cross guided them. As one star set, another rose an unbroken celestial highway across the sky. Clouds told stories too. Stationary clouds hovering over an island created unique patterns. The green glow of a lagoon reflected upward. A lone cloud in an empty sky often meant land directly beneath it. Volcanoes made their own weather, but the ocean itself was the ultimate instrument. Swells move in predictable patterns for days. Islands disrupt them, creating calm zones in their lee, reflecting and bending waves. Experienced navigators could feel these disturbances through the hull of the canoe, sometimes detecting land dozens of miles away. They read interference patterns, like we read road signs. Birds completed the toolkit. White tongues flying out at dawn or returning at dusk pointed toward land. Seasonal migrations became living calendars. Driftwood lines, watercolor changes, even bioluminescent coral. Everything was data. This wasn't luck. This was a multi-layered, cross-verified navigation system passed down through chants of songs and rigorous apprenticeships. One mistake could mean death, so the knowledge had to be perfect. It all began around 3500 BC in what is now Taiwan. Early Austronesian-speaking rice and millet farmers on the coast began island hopping. By 2200 BC, they reached the northern Philippines. Then they exploded across Southeast Asia. Then came the great split that changed half the planet. One group turned west, crossing the Indian Ocean in one of history's earliest voyages. They reached Madagascar by the middle of the first millennium AD, bringing their language, crops, and DNA to Africa. Malagasy, the language of Madagascar, is still Austronesian at its core. The other group turned east into the open Pacific. This is where the legend becomes almost unbelievable. By 2000 BC, their Lapita ancestors appeared in the Bismarck archipelago. Then they surged into remote Oceania, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, making voyages that required days out of sight of land. After a mysterious pause of nearly 1,000 years, a new wave of exploration began around 1000 AD. They reached the Society Islands, the Marquesas, and then, in a stunning burst between 1190 and 1290 AD, they colonized the rest of Polynesia. Cook Islands, Hawaii, New Zealand, And the most insane target of all, Easter Island. Easter Island sits 2,200 miles west of Chile and over 1,000 miles from the nearest inhabited land. Finding that tiny 63 square mile speck in the middle of the world's largest ocean should have been statistically impossible. Yet they did it, probably sailing from Mangareva or the Marquesas, using latitude sailing and careful risk management. If Damie said the winds could still carry them back toward known islands, why risk everything? Population pressure played a role. Small islands can only support so many people. When resources ran low, conflict rose. Young men, landless families, ambitious chiefs looked toward the horizon. But it wasn't just desperation. Polynesian oral traditions speak of heroes driven by mana, spiritual power, and prestige. Discovering new land brought glory, status, and the chance to build fresh societies free from old hierarchy. Some voyages were planned expeditions with return trips. Others were one-way flights from war or famine. They carried their entire civilization with them. Taro, breadfruit, bananas, coconuts, paper mulberry, fur cloth, chickens, pigs, dogs, even the Polynesian rat. This was transported landscapes. They didn't just find islands, they made them home. The proof. Linguistics shows it clearly. The word for canoe, waka in Maori, wahin Hawaiian, vahin Tahitian, all trace back to the same root, across thousands of miles and centuries. Genetics confirms deliberate, organized movement. Most Polynesian mitochondrial DNA passed through mothers is Asian, tracing back to Taiwan. Y chromosome DNA shows interaction with Melanesian populations along the way, not random mixing. Systematic contact, Lapita pottery, with its distinctive stamped designs, spreads like a fingerprint across the Pacific, exactly matching the migration route. Breadfruit, paper mulberry, and other species that couldn't cross oceans by themselves appear exactly where the people went. Computer simulations of drift voyages failed to match the actual settlement pattern. Only purposeful, repeated, two-way voyages explained what happened. Perspective-shattering achievement. From Madagascar in the west to Easter Island in the east, roughly 9,000 miles. From Hawaii in the north to New Zealand in the south, another 4,400 miles of open ocean. All achieved without writing, without compasses, without charts, using wooden canoes, fiber ropes, and knowledge stored in memory and song. Compare that to Columbus in 1492. 3,000 miles across the Atlantic in large ships with compasses and centuries of European seafaring tradition behind them. The Polynesians reached Easter Island centuries earlier and lashed canoes using stars and waves. By the time Europeans arrived, much of this knowledge had been disrupted by colonization, missionaries, and modernization. Some outsiders even claimed long-distance Pacific settlement must have been accidental drift. The islanders proved them wrong. The Hakulia Revolution. In 1976, the double-hulled canoe Hokulia sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti, 2,700 miles, using only traditional wayfinding. No instruments. Master navigator Mo Piolig from Micronesia led the way with star paths, swell patterns, and bird behavior. They made it in 34 days. Since then, traditional voyaging has been revived across the Pacific. New generations are learning the ancient arts, proving the knowledge was real, rigorous, and repeatable. Legacy of the Ocean People. Today, more than 300 million people speak Austronesian languages. Roughly 1,250 languages, from Madagascar to Easter Island, Taiwan to New Zealand. Their ancestors didn't see empty horizons as barriers. They saw possibility. They built ships from trees and crossed oceans as casually as others crossed rivers. They memorized the night sky. They read waves and clouds like road signs. They bet their lives, their families, and their futures on finding new land. And they found it, not once or twice, but thousands of times across centuries. This is one of the greatest expansion stories in human history, not measured in conquered empires or stone cities, but in millions of square miles of ocean turned into home. A maritime realm connected not by roads, but by currents and star paths. The next time you look at a map of the Pacific and see those tiny dots scattered across endless blue, remember, People found every single one of them on purpose. They didn't just survive the ocean. They made it theirs.